right, welcome back to the Movie Pope podcast.
Happened in it, but I was like, I hope that I don't see a lot of Dean because I really don't like him. But yeah, I think the characters were all very fun and distinct. I think, I really liked, the character of Rickles. I thought it was like this, very kind of cool, calm, and collected character compared to most of the other ones. Pete and Sammy, I kind of like how they were, they were kind of like our comic relief in a way. And I just like kind of the overall kind of like the tone, the characters, I think worked really well throughout the film. So we have all these characters, and we got Abigail that's up in the room kidnapped, and we see kind of Joey. One of her responsibilities in this is to kind of interact with Abigail, make sure everything's okay. And you can kind of see, there's a little bit of a bond going on here, right? Like she kind of protected her at the beginning when Frank was going to hit her, but she kind of protected her there. And we can kind of see this bond happening with them. And, we find out that Joey has a son and, kind of helps explain a little bit about what she is. But I really like how we have this initial interaction and we start to get these kind of seeds of the unknown going on, right? So her father is kind of this really just rich guy, but we don't really know anything about him. And I like how Abigail kind of has this, I guess, thing that she says as Joey's leaving. She's like, I feel sorry for what's going to happen to you. And I love that, right? I thought that was incredible. And I do want to call out the actress that plays Abigail. She was fantastic. Normally, I don't give a whole lot of child actors a whole lot of credit. And I think it's just, it's an experience thing, right? But I think she did really fantastic. What did you think about Abigail's role throughout the film without like getting into too much about kind of specifics?
I mean, she played it coy the way that that a kid would play, but you kind of get the sense there's more going on, between the ears than what you'd expect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's all I'm going to say right now because I don't want to rush into things.
Yeah, no. I feel you. So yeah, I did enjoy that, and I think this is one of those I enjoy the rewatch for because you kind of pick up a more context on a rewatch than maybe the first time watching it and going in blind. So, but yeah, we find out that her father is this Christophe Lazar, right? Who's this very dangerous guy, and I like how everyone's reaction to it is this kind of like couldn't help but notice that. Did you pick up on that? Did you kind of pick up on that as well, or am I thinking too deep on that?
I mean, no, that is a valid point. I was thinking more along the lines for, I guess in terms of a more contemporary reference would be Voldemort from the Harry Potter films.
Oh, yes, like, that's a good one.
He's because a lot of the audience members may not be as well versed in movies like The Usual Suspects. So for me, Lazar, has more of a Voldemort quality to him because he's one of those characters that they've heard of him, but you don't say his name out loud. Like, and I like Dean's reaction because Dean's like, oh, he's just a fucking legend. Like no one's ever heard of him. It's like, no, he's real, all right. He's quite real. And when they do that reveal, you kind of begin to understand like why Lambert kind of played his cards close to his chest, because if you had told them who they were, whose daughter she was, they would never have done it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not even if it was 75 mil a piece.
Yeah, exactly. Like it is very clear that the reaction is all very negative. Like they just made the biggest mistake of their life, and I think that's saying a lot for some of these people that have clearly done quite a bit of adds this almost like supernatural element to it, because like it's clearly not like he didn't get his head like cut off or something. Like you could see like it clearly looked like it was animalistic in nature. And even the characters kind of mention how that looks. So this kind of, I think kind of creates this, kind of air of danger for everybody. The group is trying to help get some answers for what's going on. So we see them, or we see Joey go up and meet with Abigail again. And Abigail, I like how she kind of does this, right? She starts to sow some seeds of distrust with the group. because she throws out a name. She says, "Oh, Valdez is here." Valdez being this really big character that works under Abigail's father, Lazar, and she says that Frank is this Valdez character. And I, like I said, I really like how the seed of distrust you see being planted in, where we're going to start to see our characters kind of not trusting each other. Um, so we kind of go through some tension within the group, and that's when Joey and Rickles, they decide, like, hey, we need to team up. We're gonna take this guy out. This way, we're not gonna kill them. And this is actually one of the parts where I was totally shocked by. Rickles gets killed, like, right behind Joey, right? And you kind of don't see what happened.
I mean, well, keep in mind too. I mean, there's a lot going on before all this happens. I mean, first of all, they have the conversation about who Valdez is, and I think they tell the story about how 3 witnesses were
Yes.
were locked up in a hotel room on the 23rd floor. They had they had 2 agents outside the door, and the agents were in the next room, and yet somehow these 3 witnesses were disemboweled and dismembered, and they can't figure out how that happened because in their minds, I think it would be impossible for someone to reach the 23rd floor of a hotel and do all this to them and escape without them noticing. So that so that right off the bat kind of sets the stage for what kind of person they're going to be dealing with in Valdez. Second of all, I was a part of me was a little bit confused because what happened to Dean, would seem consistent with what they're saying about Valdez, but here it looks like he's just been torn apart. Or not torn apart, but he's kind of been ripped up a little bit.
Yes,
right.
Yeah, that's a better way to describe it. Yeah,
he's more intact than Dean was, because Dean, has literally been torn apart. But Rickles, I mean, it kind of looked like half of his face was ripped off.
Yes,
that was pretty much it. Was that how you took it?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. It reminded me a little bit of like American Werewolf in London, like
how they
kind of like looked after they got mauled by the werewolf, so to speak. So something similar to that type of effect.
And it kind of and what happens next when Joey confronts Frank, because I think he's coming out of the bathroom and he said something about getting stains off or something. So so I thought that was like the perfect way to keep sowing those seeds of doubt.
Yes.
and then Frank is like, I don't know what the fuck you people are talking about.
Yes. And he definitely doesn't come across like someone that would be able to do anything stealthily, right? Like he feels very blunt in everything he does. I don't think he would be able to cover up anything personally, but
no, especially if he keeps getting stabbed over and over again.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So
and mind you, like if he got stabbed by a 12-year-old girl, I mean, imagine how much pain a former Marine would put on him.
Yes,
like it'll be very noticeable.
Yes, yeah, I totally agree. So, but yeah, so we have the death of Rickles here. And we end up having all the characters that are trying to figure out what to do. So they all are in Abigail's room, and everyone's kind of confronted each other. They're not sure what to do. So you see Joey's kind of pointing the gun over at our other characters, and it looks like Peter is kind of a reluctant person that he's just trying to get answers, and he doesn't know what to do, but he feels like the girl has the answers, and Frank is edging him on. Sammy's just kind of to the side. And I love how it just kind of cuts to Abigail, and you see her break out of the cuffs, and you see her, like, you see like the fangs and everything come out, and it becomes very clear that she's a vampire. And this, to me, like I said, going into this, I had no idea what the plot of anything was. This to me was totally unexpected. I think you kind of got some hints at it, looking back when you see how these characters were really mauled. But it was not something I was expecting. Definitely not for it to be.
It kind of takes the movie in a whole different direction because when you watch it initially, you're thinking, oh, it's going to be like The Usual Suspects or one of those heist movies, and maybe you think, oh, the dad turns out he's someone who knows tactical warfare, and he's going in to save his daughter. But then you see that reveal, and you're like, okay, so they literally have changed the nature of the game now. Like it's it's survival horror at this point. It's no longer a
Yeah.
heist film.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I really enjoyed with this is that it's able to kind of have these very clear tonal shifts, and I think each of them work within what we've been experiencing with the characters in the story, because you almost start to you kind of start to get a little bit more. I don't want to say slapstick, but like you start to see more like silly things, like the jokes like, okay, well, how do we kill a vampire? And I think they interact like normal people would interact, right? Like, vampires know them to be fictional characters. So now all of a sudden they're like, oh, geez, they're real. Like, okay, what do we know about them from all these, stories that we never believed in, but could have escaped at any time? And I like that. And then this is where we kind of see, I guess, our first instance of what we can do as the remaining survivors. So Abigail's going after Frank. Joey ends up like breaking open some boards that reveal windows that has sunlight coming through. And we see it kind of pours into the room. It hits Abigail's arm, and Abigail's arm just kind of explodes. But this is where, like I said, we kind of are like, hey, we know what we need to do now, or we know that the sunlight's going to be the effective way to do it. So like in any Scooby-Doo movie or cartoon show or whatever, they're like, hey, well, we need to get out of here. Let's go ahead. We're going to split up, and we need to find out a way to kind of reset the like defensive mechanism that the house is all like closed up now. We need to reset that. And then the whole idea is that all the light will pour in and they'll be safe. So they split up. So we got Joey and Frank that go together as a team, and we see Sammy and Peter go as a team. And this is where kind of I think my saddest death happens, where they kill Sammy. Obviously Sammy being controlled by Abigail, but they kill her nonetheless, leaving kind of our last two characters left here to fend off against Abigail. And this is where I really liked a lot of what I've seen so far. This is where I think things kind of got weird. How do you kind of like the last like 15, 20 minutes of this?
I mean, it pretty much keeps in line with the whole, expect the unexpected vibe of the
That's
movie.
true.
Because
That's
I mean,
true.
because what I thought was really really funny was that was that Frank he goes to the bookshelf and he's like trying to like find that key that will open a secret passage that will let him out.
Mhm.
And then he's just like going through the bookshelf, and Joey's just like, you get it all out there, Frank. And he's like flipping out. So so it just goes to show that that Abigail is very much in control. And we also come to find out that this isn't the first time this has happened. Like, this is something that's been consistent throughout.
Yes.
The one scene that really really made my eyes widen in surprise was when Sammy falls into that. I think it's like a pit or something, but it's in the basement. So so Sammy literally stumbles into bodies in the basement, and you come to find out like these were her past victims as part of her. I mean, I really did get Predator vibes from it, because you remember that movie.
Yeah.
Because you remember that movie with Adrian Brody where they're dropped on this like game reserve planet or moon, and they come to find out like that they aren't the first ones there. Like, there have been others before them. That's the vibe that I got.
Lots of other ones, right?
Yeah.
Lots of other ones.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like every corner could literally hide something that you're not expecting to happen. So so when they just see that door open, in my mind I'm thinking, well, I guess Frank did find the right key. It just took a while to work, their time, right? Because that's the impression that I got.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I'm fully expecting as well, is that he's been there the whole time, because I figured like he must have got back in prior to like the lockdown, because I feel like
he was the one who instigated the lockdown, because you could see that control box.
That's true. So and I don't think, knowing like how fast these vampires can move, I don't think it's too outside the norm. But yeah, like it's kind of like, oh hey, Lambert, not expecting to see you here type of thing. So so Lambert, he's sitting there kind of like discussing this with Frank about, like, hey, I can I could turn you to a vampire, because Lambert, he's not very happy with his role, and he wants to kill both Abigail and her father, Lazar. So, Lambert kind of looks at Frank as being probably the one that's most likely to be willing to get turned a vampire. And like I said, I think this is where I kind of get a little bit weird with stuff, because it's like Frank kind of turns initially to a vampire, and then he seems to almost be stronger than Lambert because he kind of quickly overpowers him and kills him.
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with that. I just think it's the fact that Frank is, Frank is, more cunning, because Lambert kind of gets into his mind. Oh, now that I created you, you're my underling, so you'll do anything I say. So he kind of drops his guard down. Plus,
okay, that's a good point.
Plus, keep in mind too. I mean, the reason why Lambert got turned was because he was helping Frank out in the not too distant past over their dealings with the with the drug lord, or crime lord, I should say.
Yes.
So there's already a relationship there between the two of them anyway.
Very true. Yeah, very true. So that's true, right? So yeah, I think initially that makes a ton of sense. I think where that maybe gets into a little bit of muddy water, right? So we got Frank is kind of chasing after Joey now, so wants to kill Joey, just because at this stage. And so what ends up happening is Joey and Abigail have to kind of team up to take care of Frank. So